So I've been seeing these like new craze on YouTube, all these new videos talking about starting over. And it's specifically like usually titled like starting over in your 30s. And as a 34-year-old in the middle of a rebrand herself, I kind of was like, oh, so I'm not alone. It's not just me. We're all doing it. Okay, this is a canon part of the storyline. And then that made me lay down the thought about why 30 is such a time period to start over. Why does it almost seem canonical to start over in your 30s? What about this time period really makes you rethink all of your life decisions and what you really want? So let's deep dive. All right, guys, I'm Carissa. If this is your first time here, cutie patootie you, thanks for clicking the video. And if you're a returning subscriber, you already know how I feel about you, so you just keep doing you. Now, guys, so as I was sitting here pondering this thought, one of the first things that really came to me was that when I was younger, I did not have a plan for 30. It was something that I just felt would fall into place. It was just filler years for me. I had an idea that I was going to go to college, I was going to graduate, I was going to get married, I was going to have kids, I was going to become a wife and a mother, and I was going to wrap my life around these things and these ideas that 16-year-old me had. And I didn't have any life goals for 30. I just was like, once I get my career, I'll be established, I have a family, then my life begins and I'll just be happy because I have X, Y, and Z. I didn't go any further than that. Well, oddly I did because I just like skipped to retirement. Like what I imagined my life to be after I had raised my kids and where I wanted to be in the very final years. But those middle years were just a blur. Almost like I anticipated nothing changing about my life. That it was just going to be the same day every day. And for some reason, I was going to be ecstatic about that. But now I'm 34, and I can say I've personally rebranded quite a few times. I can't speak for you, but I've gone through several different versions of myself. I've done odd jobs where I worked at Apple in their Genius Bar. I worked late night shifts at a dog food company, answering phone calls for people ordering animal supplies. And then I started my real career. All of those things were different versions of me. People I thought I was or who I wanted to be, and I tried. And sometimes I succeeded, sometimes I didn't. I think what I realize now is my 30s were one of the few years that there wasn't a script. Not even a script that I wrote for myself, but that society had written for me. When I was a young girl, I anticipated going to high school. I anticipated going to college. I knew those things were written for me. It was just a matter of accomplishing them. I knew I had to do them. Once I graduated, I intended the script to continue to get married, find someone, get married, have kids, and live this little American dream life. So when those plans didn't go through or things changed, and I realized that the person who had written this script was a 16-year-old who didn't know what 30-year-old Carissa was going to be like, I had to start rewriting. I had to start changing what I thought I wanted for myself and how I outlined this book to go. It's like when you're writing that fan fiction and that character makes a drastic left turn that you start to realize, actually, that goes more to their character than I had planned. The 16-year-old me couldn't have envisioned this 34-year-old. She wasn't prepared for the wisdom, the experiences, the relationships, the careers. She thought everything was going to be easy or just fall into place. I never anticipated that things wouldn't go the way I had intended. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. There's been a lot of things that I thought I wanted that I realized I didn't once I got there. Just because it fit the script for what was told didn't mean that person or that thing was necessarily right for me. I remember going to college. This was one of the first examples I had of a rebranding. And my family was very intent on me being a lawyer, an environmental lawyer at that. It was my compromise. I was going to fight for the environment. But the more law classes I took, the more I realized this wasn't for me. And the script that I had started writing for myself had drastically started to change. Now at 34, I'm realizing some of the bigger plans I had for myself I'm starting to rescript. where I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years, whether that's in the United States or in Japan, whether I see myself with more kids or just my one, whether I see myself still doing the job I have in 5 to 6 years. I didn't anticipate going legally blind. All of these are things that young me couldn't have predicted. So I know why 30s are for rebranding, because you spend your teens and your 20s writing a story that 30-year-old is going to laugh at, is going to chuckle at, because those two people don't know each other. That 15-year-old you hasn't sat in a room with 34-year-old you to create this plan. They just have a vision, an idea of who you are, and life has a great way of showing you some character development. So who you think you are, what you think you want, may not be the case. And I think that's why 30s become such a prime year for rebranding, because it's where the storyline starts running out, where you've tried plan A a few times and it wasn't what you wanted. Maybe you made it to the top of that computer engineering class, you got that job at Google, you're at the law firm, and then you realize, I don't want any of this. This isn't what I thought it would be. It actually doesn't make me happy. It's like when you have that idea for that restaurant and you've envisioned the plate, the food, the order, the service, and that plate comes and you are looking at it and it's looking at you, and we are about to make some magic. And you take that first bite, and the reality of the disappointment that sets into your mouth starts to reach your brain and your entire body. And you realize, this is not what I thought it would be. And that's not necessarily bad, because you had the experience. You know, you had the chance to say that, oh, I went to that restaurant and you know what, I actually didn't like it. So I think I'm more into Chinese food if I'm gonna do something different. That's what your 20s are for. And your 30s are for exploring the things that you found out, hey, I actually do like that. That actually does work for me. 20s are for experimenting. 20s are for trying and seeing what you like and seeing how things going. And 30s for realizing, you know, I didn't like any of that, so I'm gonna try this instead. Or, you know what, I finished it. I got what I wanted. What else do I want? And that's why 30s are challenging, but also some of the most exciting times of your life, because you feel the pressure of tomorrow, but you feel the reality of your youth. You're young enough to try again, but you're old enough to realize, I have skills. And when you start over, you're not starting over from zero anymore. It's not like childhood or a video game where you start with zero experience. No, it's more like one of those video games where every time you respawn, you come back stronger with your old weapons. You've leveled up, you have your abilities. That's what being 30s like in rebranding. So if you're in your 20s and things aren't working out the way you thought they would, and you're not in the place you thought you would be, I want to reassure you that no one is. There's very few of us walking this planet right now can tell you, oh, I'm exactly where I thought I would be, and I'm happy with that, and I want to stay right here in this position forever. No, it's human nature to evolve and to cycle and to change. And I think that's another important piece of rebranding and getting older, is realizing that life isn't linear. There's not just this straight and narrow path that you take where, you know, you just check things off. Okay, I got the job of my dreams, so I'm never going to want anything again. Or I made an X amount of money, so I'm not going to want another dollar. Or I traveled to every place on my bucket list. That means I can stay home forever. Or I got married. That means now I don't have to date my partner anymore because we're official. They can't go anywhere. No, the exact opposite is true. Now that you've done all these things, now that you've had these experiences, what more do you want? And once you complete that cycle, once you get to the top of your career and realize, you know, I think I want my master's, or I think I want to start a side business, you might realize once you finish that process again, the cycle starts again. Okay, now I want more. Now I want something else. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. For wanting to rewrite the chapter or to try something new and try a new experience. That's part of life. That's the glory of seasons and change and year by year, is that you aren't the same person you were last month, a couple months, and definitely not a few years ago. There's a whole new you sitting there. So it doesn't matter why you're starting over. It could be for a good reason. It could be for a bad reason. It just could be because today's Tuesday and Monday didn't go that well and you want to try something different. I think the point of the story is that we're all changing because that's what life is about. Life is about starting over and finding out that the book you wrote isn't one you want to follow. You don't like the script, or you want to alter it slightly and change out some characters or rebrand that one. And there's nothing wrong with that. No one should fault you, and if they do, it doesn't matter, because this is your life. And if you want to switch it up and be an astronaut princess instead of a cowboy engineer, then babe, I'm with that, because we have one life to live, and I'd rather say I did it being every version of myself that I wanted to be, instead of saying I stuck to a script that made me unhappy. Why would I do that? When I have one life that I'm conscious of, that I am living, why would I stick to someone else's ideas of me, what else they want, or even what I used to think I want? Because now I realize maybe I don't want that. Or maybe I realize I really do want that. So it's okay to rebrand. It's okay to change. It's okay to start over. Because what else are you going to do with your 30s? Do the same shit you did in your 20s? Now I'm straight. Let's do something new together. So if you made it to this far in the video, first of all, I want to thank you, and I hope you leave a comment, like, and subscribe, babe. Because that's what makes this video better. It's how we reach other people and build our community. And I am interested, are you in a starting over phase? Have you recently started over and rebranded you? For me, yes. Yes, babe, I've completely rebranded. I'm not going to lie. I am not boss babe Carissa or anything, but I'm like, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess that's the rebrand process. I am literally trying to figure out what I want, where I want to go, what I want to do, and what makes me happy, and the story I want to create for myself. I think I realized I have been trying to fit into other people's storylines and at their worlds instead of just creating my own. So it's going to be an interesting journey. And to close, guys, don't you ever forget, if no one has told you today, you are loved, you are cared for, thought of. If by nobody else, by me and the Funkos. Ciao, guys.